Welcome to our countdown of the greatest American muscle cars of all time. You know, the kind of cars that make you want to fill up the tank just by looking at them. These beasts have defined an era, and continue to capture the hearts of car enthusiasts everywhere. We're talking raw power, sleek designs, that rumble you can feel in your chest. The kind of cars that made America famous for hitting the open road. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to take a trip down memory lane with some of the most iconic machines ever built. Alright, you knew this one was coming. You can't talk about muscle cars without mentioning the Ford Mustang. First off, the design, it just screams freedom, doesn't it? The long hood, short deck, that iconic horse emblem, it's pure Americana. And the sound of that engine roaring to life, forget about it, it's enough to give you goosebumps. But the Mustang wasn't just a pretty face. Under the hood you had serious power V8 engines, enough to leave a competitor eating your dust. The Mustang wasn't just a car, it was a cultural icon. It represented a generation, a sense of rebellion and freedom. And let's be honest, it looked darn good on screen too. From bullet to gone in 60 seconds, the Mustang cemented its place in Hollywood history. Still today, the Mustang turns heads wherever it goes. It's a reminder of a time when cars were more than just transportation, they were a statement. Hot on the heels of the Mustang, we have the Chevrolet Camaro. Chevy saw what Ford was doing and they said, we can do that too, and maybe even better. And you know what? They put up one heck of a fight. The Camaro was all about raw power and performance. It was designed to go head-to-head with the Mustang, and boy did they put on a show. The rivalry between these two is the stuff of legends. Every time a new Mustang came out, the Camaro folks would be right there with a response. And it wasn't just on the streets, folks. These two went to war on the racetrack too. Trans Am Racing, NASCAR, you name it. The Camaro and Mustang were battling it out for supremacy. But it wasn't just about brute force with the Camaro. It had style too. Those sharp lines, the aggressive stance, it dared you to get behind the wheel. And when you did, well, let's just say you were in for a wild ride. The Camaro proved it was more than just a pretty face, it was a contender, a true muscle car icon. Chapter 3. Charger, a movie star with muscle. Now here's a car that needs no introduction, the Dodge Charger. This machine is pure, unadulterated muscle car royalty. It's got the looks, it's got the power, and it's got a resume longer than my last stand-up routine. First off, let's talk about that design. It's like they took a cheetah and molded it into a car. Those curves, that fastback roofline, that mean-looking grille, it's enough to make grown men weep with envy. And then there's the sound. Oh, that glorious sound. The Charger's engine roars like a symphony of power, a deep, throaty rumble that lets everyone know you've arrived and you ain't messing around. But the Charger wasn't just about show, it was the go that really mattered. This thing was built for speed. They packed some serious horsepower under the hood, enough to make your heart skip a beat. And on the big screen, forget about it. The Charger is a bona fide movie star. Who could forget Steve McQueen tearing through the streets of San Francisco in Bullitt, or the General Lee jumping over everything in sight in the Dukes of Hazzard? The Charger is a legend, plain and simple. Chapter 4, GTO, the grandfather of them all. Now we're going back in time a bit to talk about the car that started it all, the Pontiac GTO. This is the one that kicked off the muscle car craze, the OG of American performance. Now some folks back then might have called it a senior compact. Can you believe that? Senior compact? This thing was a beast. It was like trying to stuff a lion into a hamster cage. The GTO was all about taking a regular everyday car and giving it a shot of adrenaline. It was about as subtle as a fireworks display on the 4th of July and just as exciting. Under the hood you had a big powerful V8 engine just itching to be unleashed. And when you stepped on the gas, well, let's just say you held on tight and prayed you had enough road ahead of you. The GTO wasn't just about straight-line speed either. It handled surprisingly well for a car of its size. It could carve up corners and leave the competition in its dust. The GTO wasn't just a car, it was a revolution. It changed the way we thought about performance, and it paved the way for all the muscle cars that came after it. Chapter 5. Barracuda, Beauty and Bite. We're finishing up our list with a car that was as beautiful as it was powerful, the Plymouth Barracuda. This fish came to play, folks, and it had the style and performance to back it up. Now, the Barracuda had a bit of a slow start in life. It was initially marketed as a fastback version of the Valiant, can you imagine? But once they dropped in that big old V8 engine, everything changed. The Barracuda transformed into a true muscle car contender, ready to take on all comers. But what really set the Barracuda apart was its design. It was one of the most unique-looking cars on the road, with those fastback lines, that aggressive front end, and that huge rear window. It was like nothing else out there. And speaking of that rear window, did you know it was the largest ever put on a production car at the time? Talk about a conversation starter. And let's not forget about the performance. the Barracuda could hold its own against the best of them. It was quick off the line, handled like a dream, and sounded absolutely fantastic. It was a driver's car, through and through. The Barracuda proved that you could have it all: style, performance, and a whole lot of attitude. Thanks for joining us on this ride through muscle car history. It's amazing to see how these cars have captured our imaginations and continue to inspire enthusiasts today. Whether it's the roar of the engine, the sleekness of the design, or just the feeling of freedom they represent, muscle cars hold a special place in our hearts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on your favorite muscle car below. And hey, if you ever get the chance to drive one of these beauties, don't hesitate. It's an experience you won't soon forget.